Hello, my name is Brenda from needlepointforfun.com, and today we are going to learn how to needlepoint. The first thing you need to do is to take the colours from out of the needlepoint kit and sort them out and decide which colour you're going to use first. And then cut a piece of yarn about 18 inches long. If the manufacturer of the kit hasn't already cut the thread lengths for you, cut one about 18 inches long. And I'm going to show you using this piece of 7 mesh canvas how to do a continental stitch. And I'm going to form it up here where there's no pattern on the canvas, just so you can see what I'm doing. Now the first thing you're going to do when you start to needlepoint is you're going to thread one end of the yarn and form a knot in the other end of the yarn. And what we're going to do with this knot is we're going to form what's called a waist knot to start the thread and secure it in the canvas. So you're going to bring the needle down from the front to the back of the canvas so the knot sits on top of the canvas, and we're going to snip that off later. But for the moment we'll just let it sit there. Now a needlepoint stitch forms like a half cross going from the bottom and up to the right, like the second arm on a V, or forming like an italic letter. And we're going to learn how to do the continental stitch, which works horizontally across the canvas. So you're going to form rows going back and across the canvas. Right, so to start the very first stitch, you bring your needle up and you bring it down going diagonally up and across, like, as I said, like the second stroke of a letter V, or like you're forming an italic letter. And you can see there it's forming a half cross stitch. And your second stitch comes up from the back of the canvas immediately adjacent to the bottom of the first stitch and goes down up and across to the right to form that second arm or the second stroke of a V. And you just keep forming the stitches in that fashion, placing them alongside each other, forming that half cross or the second arm of a V. And we're going to do about 4 or 5 stitches, and you can see we're working towards this knot. And what that's doing is that's actually securing the tail of your thread. Because you'll see if we look on the back, the stitches that we're forming are covering up this tail. So that makes sure that the tail of the thread is secure and it doesn't, and your stitches don't come undone. So once we've done about 5 stitches, we're going to imagine that we've come to the end of that row and we need to do another row underneath. So the easiest way to do that is actually to turn your canvas around, and then you get to work it in exactly the same way, but this time you're actually going to have to bring your needle up in a hole that's already occupied by another stitch. But apart from that, you're working it in exactly the same way. You bring your needle up and then down and to the right to form that V. And then you're just working this row. And that's how you needlepoint. It's easy. Okay, so then when you've come to the end, oh, I got it caught up there. Then when you come to the end of your colour, or you run out of thread and you need to re-thread the needle, you need to be able to secure the thread so that the stitches don't unravel, and the way you do that is you go to the back of your canvas and all you're going to do is slide your needle under some of the stitches that are there to secure it. You need to put that down, and normally you wouldn't have such a big tail as I've got here that needs to go under, but you just slide them under, and then you take some scissors and you snip it off quite close to the stitches. And remember at the very beginning we formed that waist knot? Well, now you can also just snip this off too, because all these stitches have secured your thread. And that's how you'd form a basic needlepoint stitch. Now when you go to work your canvas, we have a beginner's canvas here, and a good way to work a needlepoint canvas is to stitch the smaller areas of colour first. So if I was going to work this canvas, I would probably start by doing this horse rider's hair, or maybe I might start with her arm, but in general I would stitch in the smallest areas of colour first. The other thing that I'd like to point out is when you're working perhaps something like this irregular shape design, like this cloud here, you would start it in the top right and you would do this stitch and then this stitch and this stitch, and when you get to here you notice that there's 3 stitches of a different colour. All I would do in this instance, because it's only 3 stitches, is I would just bring my needle all the way over and do these 2 stitches, turn my canvas round, work back along this row. So I've actually dragged the thread behind these purple stitches. That won't matter because when you go to stitch in the purple colour later, it will cover up that stitch at the back, that thread at the back. And that's how you'll needlepoint. So thank you for listening.